Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and Happy New Year. If you weren't in our last webinar, this is our second webinar of the year, and I'm really excited for our guest speaker, Tim Kelly. He will be providing some education on what's so attractive about mobile home parks. So before we get started with Tim, just a few things about NewView. If you're not familiar with NewView, we are a self-directed IRA custodian. We're a third-party custodian. NewView is non-fiduciary, so we do not provide any investment advice. We're also not CPAs or attorneys, so we can't give you any legal advice or any tax advice. All the information we do provide to you is strictly educational. We do not encourage any investments. We do suggest you speak with an attorney, an accountant, a financial advisor, whoever you need to do your due diligence before you do invest your IRA funds into any types of investments, as well as using your own cash. You definitely want to do your due diligence before investing your money. So a few more things about NewView. We have been in business since 2003, so 17 years. In operation. We have an office in South Dakota, and that picture there is our office in the Central Florida area. We're located in Longwood, Florida, and we're a regulated public trust company. A few things that we do have is 1.5 billion in client assets under custody, and we do take pride in the fact that we are simple to do business with. We are available and responsive. We like to build relationships with all of our clients, as well as, a lot of people just like Tim that are, they have some type of investment or investment experience. We build relationships with them. We like to bring them on for webinars or conferences so they can educate our audience and our clients on how they can diversify their portfolio. A few other things about self-directed IRAs in general. All your investments in self-directed IRAs, they must be passive. They must be at arm's length. So self-directed IRAs, you can't invest directly or indirectly with any disqualified parties. The disqualified parties are the IRA owner and their spouse, both of their parents and grandparents, and their children and grandchildren. So your IRA is never allowed to do business with those parties or any businesses that those parties are owners or majority owners in. So I'm really excited about Tim's presentation today. This is a subject that I've been researching myself. I'm kind of looking for my first, investment opportunity, considering maybe getting into an Airbnb. I'm not sure if I want to do a mobile home, if I want to do a condo, if I want to do a, single family residence. So let me give you some background on Tim before he gets started. So Tim is a real estate investor and educator. He's also the best-selling author and speaker. He recently separated from his position in the United States Navy as a Chief Petty Officer after 15 years of service. So Tim, thank you for your service. Tim has been investing in real estate since 2011. He purchased his first single-family residence with the intention of forcing appreciation and flipping for profits. He originally started with fix and flips. That was also his first house hack. He quickly learned the benefits of long-term buy and hold real estate. There were much more aligned with what his goals were with real estate investments. Through analyzing hundreds of multifamily properties, Tim has built an incredible network of real estate professionals. He owns, controls, and has directly been involved with over 1,000 units. And he is looking to acquire about 5,000 multifamily units within the next 3 years. That's his big goal for the next 3 years. I do agree with that. Goal setting is very important when it comes to real estate. You want to set some high goals for yourself. I myself I met Tim through networking on LinkedIn. And after meeting him, I learned a little bit more about the types of investments that he was doing. I learned that he's also a coach, and he likes to coach a lot of students that are leaving the military, and then he coaches them on how they can become real estate investors. And that intrigued me, and that's how I reached out to him and I built a relationship with him. And now I'm really happy to bring him on to be a speaker today as well. If you do have any questions, please type those in the Q&A section. And I am very excited to introduce Tim. Give me a second here. Let me see if he's available now. Can everybody hear me? I apologize. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties, but just give me a second. Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. All right, Tim is logging in right now. Remember, if you have questions, go ahead and type those in the Q&A section. We will answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. We'll have plenty of time to do that. If you have any self-directed IRA questions, I will be more than happy to talk to you about those one-on-one. Let's try to keep these questions more geared towards the subjects that Tim will be covering with us today. Okay, sorry, Tim was having some Wi-Fi issues, but he says he is logging in right now. He was on a few minutes ago, just, there he is. All right, fantastic. Tim, I've already introduced you and I read your bio. Everyone's really excited to hear you. So without further ado, here is Tim Kelly.
Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry about that. Super. I apologize for what's happening with the Wi-Fi here, but I think we're good. Could you hear me loud and clear and see me and everything? Just want to make sure you guys could hear me loud and clear. Could I just get a quick thumbs up? Make sure. Okay, cool. Looks like I got a couple responses from the panelists. Outstanding, Greg. I appreciate you guys, DJ. Cool. All right. So again, it sounds like there was already a little bit of an intro. And so, I appreciate the warm welcome. And this is an honor just talking to you guys. Super passionate about kind of what I do, teach, and what I help other military members learn about. So just a quick kind of rundown and a bio of me. Let's see. This is good. I don't know if I have control at this point. Okay, awesome. So, brief bio, you guys already said, you went over that, so I won't really take too much longer. I just separated from the military back in November. I was a senior enlisted leader in the Navy, a chief petty officer. And so my last duty station was Pensacola, Florida. I spent 4 years there and I still reside there today. So I'm here in the Pensacola area. Everybody just let me know in the chat box if you could say where you're at, if anybody else is in Florida, where you're currently residing from. I always love to see all, where all the different places are that we're tuning in from. So, and I always stress my military training and what I did for the last 15 years, going in and out to sea and going on deployments and just being in the military, surrounded by Navy and Marines and all the other branches. The military will just make you or break you. But I truly believe that those who serve in the military, especially for any more than a term, have a lot of the tools to be very successful in business and investing and estate. And so I stumbled across real estate on a long deployment that I went on back in 2014. Had a bunch of books on just building wealth and personal finance. And I was never comfortable with having somebody else, a financial advisor, completely just control all my investments. So I wanted to direct my own investments and have more control. And so I learned more and more and more about how real estate, you're able to anybody can get into it. Anybody can learn about it. You don't need to be licensed in order to buy real estate. And there's all different ways that you can make money in real estate. So I kind of just started learning more and more about that. Fast forward, I got off that deployment, just started honing in on just all the different ways you can make money in real estate until I found the one niche that are really just called my name. I was very attracted to, and that's multifamily, both apartment communities, mobile home communities, and now we're looking at storage facilities. And so now, I'm the senior managing partner of Kelly Housing Group. That's my entity, as well as ADPI, the guys with ADPI. We have our own, we have our own acquisition side. But at this point, while I was active duty, I cleared over 1,000 income producing units that, I helped buy, that I currently own, control, or help close. And again, now we're focusing hard on apartments, mostly mobile home parks, and then we're looking at storage facilities too. But also a best-selling author along the journey there. And the thing about active duty passive income, I'm right now, I'm the VP of education, and a co-owner of this amazing platform. I don't want to talk too much about it, but we are really the premier education and networking platform for military real estate investors, whether that's active duty or past active duty, whether you're a vet or a reservist or families or spouses. So we have all these amazing resources, and all the way from how to use your VA loan intelligently, even how to get your financial foundation established through credit repair and just building blocks, the stuff we should all learn in schools, all the way to how to syndicate 100-unit apartment community and raise capital. And while you're active duty, while you're traveling around the world with your family, with your military branch, you can have partners, stateside. And I know there's a lot of partners that I've had that have been overseas and bought large properties back home. That's what we're doing. So I want to dive into the mobile home parks. Again, me personally, I love, this is my wife and I, we love traveling. This was actually when we were in Panama. She has family in Panama. That's where she was born. And we go there as much as possible. Haven't been there in about a year and a half at this point, but love just giving back to the military. My wife, she's one of the lead, supervisors at the USO here in Pensacola, Florida. It's just this amazing military organization. It's a home away from home all around the world. A lot of times you'll see them in the airports, but my wife basically runs the center here. And I've been playing drums all my life. I have a gig actually this coming weekend. And I love playing music, and that's just one of my whys, one of my passions. And we love traveling. I love scuba diving. So that's, why I got into real estate, and I realized how real estate could truly provide freedom. So I could do all these things that I enjoy doing and give back more, and be more present and deliver. We don't have any kids yet. We're about to start having kids. It's a huge reason why I got into real estate, why I got out of the military. Don't want to be on deployment while my wife's pregnant. So this was a few years back. This is actually the first deal that I did. Had just got to Pensacola, Florida. Some of my partners, we actually bought a 42-unit apartment complex about 4 years ago, and we actually just sold that. Offered our investors over 100% returns. And there was a lot of struggles through that. We had to fire a property manager, and it was in a D-class. It was a D-class neighborhood. It was a nice property. It was a D-class property in like a C+ neighborhood. So we significantly improved it. So there was a lot of struggles and challenges with that. That was my first deal, and it's pretty cool. We went first full cycle with it. But then I got into mobile home parks, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about. I know there's a lot of stigmas out there. There's a lot of misinformation. And when I'm talking about mobile home parks, you may have heard mobile home communities or manufactured home communities or trailer parks, all same thing. This, what you see pictured, is actually a nice mobile home or manufactured home community with streets and driveways and nice little skirting around the bottom. Those look like they're double wides, right? But then you'll see some that are in, one-star parks that are in the hood that you really don't want to walk into at night unless you're armed, or unless you have an armed officer with you or something like that. But there's a lot of stigmas out there. So these are the reasons why we love them. And so we have a major affordable housing crisis, and we have had one for many years. And I think this is one of the best solutions, because there's no more of an affordable type of housing than mobile home communities, especially if you own your own home, you own your own trailer, and maybe you're paying lot rent. You're going to see the average lot rent is under $300 a month. So where else could you live for $300 a month? And some of these communities, as you see, are nice, and they're where you could raise a family, and they're nice homes with nice people and good culture, and it's clean, and it's in a safe neighborhood. So there's so much affordable housing out there, and this is one of the solutions to the affordable housing crisis. If you could find and and provide this like clean, safe, and affordable housing and functional housing, now more than ever, you're always in a safe, secure investment, because there's always going to be such a demand for workforce housing and affordable housing. And so because of all these stigmas, right, there's less investors investing in this asset class than there are in single family homes and even apartment complexes, because most mobile home park owners, or investors, understand that not many people are getting asset class, just because of what the news tells us, the movies tells us. And so another thing we love is far lower expense ratio. And the goal here for many owners is to own all the ground, right? And own none of the units, right? And if the owners own their own units, they're paying for their own maintenance, their own repairs, their own insurance, their own taxes, but they're also paying your lot rent, and that's only going up. And so the expense ratio comparatively to other asset classes in commercial real estate, especially in multifamily, there's lower expense ratio because you own the ground, you own the infrastructure, and you're collecting lot rent. But a lot of times you don't have the expenses of the dwellings. You still have to keep up the infrastructure, the sewer, the water, the electric meters, and obviously the landscape and the trees and all that. There's still going to be expenses depending on the layout, depending on the size. But it's actually a pretty sweet asset class for returns because of a lower, stereotypically lower expense ratio. And like I said, average lot rent is going up. And for many, many, many years, moms and pops who are in the retirement age, ready to just retire, and they want to get out of the business, they have been literally afraid to rent, to increase the lot rents over time with inflation. So most lot rents are so low, like 150, 180, 200. We're seeing 220 all the time. And the average across the board from West Coast to East Coast is about between 325 now. But we're still looking at so many parks where their lot rent is below 200. And, that's comparatively looking at other mobile home communities in that area. Is that market rent? And where could you force appreciation? Where could you, where is there room to grow? And that's obviously the types of deals that we look at with that extra upside and great markets, and where we understand there's a predictable path of progress, where the market's not the problem, it's the ownership is the problem, or the management is the problem. So again, you get huge returns in mobile home communities. Even when cap rates started going down, that's when I started looking at mobile home parks back in probably like 17, early 18, when cap rates went, typical cap rates in apartments were going from like 8, then to 7, then to 6. Then it's like, what the heck is happening? And then that's when I started diving into mobile home communities, and we were able to still find double-digit cap rates. And now they're not as common. It depends on your market, but it still provides generally more returns than your other multifamily. So I don't know if there's any questions that you want to keep. I absolutely can keep going. I think we're going to do the end. But yeah, I'm just going to introduce to you guys is just some terminology. If you're more interested in this, this class, there's star ratings. You may have heard in multifamily, you got A, B, C, and D class based on your demographic. A class, your luxury, you want to see homes that are, or apartments that are built in the last 5 to 10 years. But then D class is like you're in the hood, right? It's the war zone. You don't really want to go there at night again, unless you're carrying a piece. So in mobile home parks, it's star ratings. 1 star is lowest, kind of least desirable, and then up to 5 stars, where you'll see like a gated community. A lot of the 55 plus communities are more 4 or 5 stars. They have just different, nicer amenities and transportation, and just nicer homes and nicer paving, and it's just a nicer overall community. So there's some star rating. POH, park owned home. That's when a lot of parks that we look at, park owned homes, there's a ratio between park owned homes and tenant owned homes. Usually the goal for a lot of investors is to have 100% tenant owned homes, and then where you own nothing but the land, right? There are pros and cons to that, by the way, as a side note. But usually when we look at them, there's a ratio. There's like a spread. There's like maybe 30, 40% park owned homes, and then the rest are tenant owned homes. So TOH, POH, that's all that means. But then mobile home, which is actually from the HUD code, they actually came up with the name in 1976, manufactured home. It's funny because these mobile homes are not so mobile. If you think about it, they have axles, they have wheels, but most most demographic tenants who live in mobile home communities, most of them aren't, the type that are just going to get up and move and just kind of move from place to place. Usually if they're there to stay for a few different reasons. One, you have to just consider the amount that it costs for a tenant to move. Once you're settled in and your everything is hooked up to the utilities and you're skirted, just the work and the money to unskirt it, unhook the utilities, unbrick it, unlevel it, move it, hook it up to a truck, have the truck move it, safely do it, sit it down, kind of brick everything, level everything, put utilities back on and put the skirting back on. That could be between $5,000 even to $10,000. So a lot of times the tenants who are living in mobile home parks don't have the kind of money to just spend if they want to just up and move. So usually most mobile home community tenants, even if they own their own home, once they're there, they stay, unless they have their own land or unless they find a better place or unless they upgrade if they want to move into a home or whatever. So just wanted to throw that out there. So mobile homes are usually not so mobile, but we do refer to them as real estate when we're talking about real estate investing, and they are a form of real estate with wheels. So we also refer to them as real estate. Got to keep you guys entertained. So I'm sure you've heard of single wides, double wides, triple wides even, and then a hitch. So again, single wide is usually between 14 to 18 feet in width. That's your single wide, and then double wide is actually two single wides put together. And then triple wides, there are some people that have triple wides. They're really rare. I don't own any, and none of my mobile home communities at this point have any triple wides in them, but it's a thing. It exists, right? Usually they're in larger neighborhoods, then you won't even be able to tell it's a mobile home community because it's just so large. It doesn't look like a trailer or a mobile home. It's three of them stacked together. So, and again, the hitch is what the mover would kind of connect to move it. That's just another term that you kind of come by a lot. And then a lot of times in mobile home parks, you have RVs, modular homes, tiny homes, kind of all inside the parks, especially when we're underwriting in major markets that have a lot of transition. A lot of times we see RVs. It's like split. It's half mobile homes and half RVs. And so there's absolutely pros and cons to that. But again, these are just some terms in the industry. Modular homes, they kind of look the same, but they're built on site and they basically just dropped in there and kind of constructed in modules in the manufacturer. Then they're brought in essentially in pieces. And then some tiny, small 300, 400, 500 square feet homes. Haven't seen too many of those. That's another specific demographic. A lot of the younger millennial demographic are looking for those all over the world, and those are the ones that they do like to have mobile, where they could kind of just hook it to a truck and kind of go on to their next site, kind of like RVs. But again, just some terms. What else? RTO, LPO, rent to own or lease purchase option. That's essentially if you are looking to help a mobile home community resident become a homeowner, right? Say if you have a park-owned home, it is, as we covered a little bit, we talked a little bit about, it's beneficial for them to own the property. For both of us, it's mutually beneficial for them to be a homeowner. So helping them become a homeowner, sometimes you have a decent unit and sometimes you literally gift it to them just for them to become a homeowner, and then you raise the lot rent right there. So instead of charging them, thousands of dollars for this unit and then increasing the lot rent, let's say they're a new tenant and the lot rent is $200 below, your market rent. You could literally gift them that for usually $1, or maybe, make an agreement with them so it's very, very affordable. And then in exchange, they move in and at the market lot rent. Sometimes too, if they have background, if they're handy or something, you can give them like a handyman special, if it needs a little bit of love. But then that's where you got to have it in contract and have it in writing, and you can never trust your tenants to do what they say they're going to do. But rent, you'll see those as rent to own or lease purchase option, or lot rent and ground leases. Like what we said, you have lot rent and then unit rent. So if we have a big community and we have, half of them are lot rent, they're only paying us the lot rent. Let's say it's $300 a month. And then the ones that are park owned home, they're paying us lot rent plus unit rent. So there are some good benefits and advantages of having park owned homes. Even the majority of park owned homes, if they're in good shape, and they don't require a lot of maintenance, that is high cash flow. Unfortunately, tenant, your park, your unit rent is not capitalizable. So that makes a little bit of a difference when you're valuing your park and when you're going to sell and when you're getting numbers and when you're doing your accounting. So that is a little bit of a disadvantage of having the park homes, but you can get a lot more gross rents. You can get high gross rents, and you can charge $8, $9, $1,000 a month just for rent if it's a decent home that's within built within the last 4 or 5 years. There's also a lot of benefits of having the park owned rent and having those park owned homes. So mobile home associations are found. Each state is getting a mobile home association. And it's a great way to just learn and network, and there's a limited amount of people inside this industry, so sometimes it's hard to find other people in the industry. Not now as much, but it's just a great association to be part of and learn from and really learn the laws, because each state is going to have its own like landlord tenant laws and certain things. So if you are actively investing, you should certainly be part of the mobile home association in your state. A stick built home is kind of just the typical home, with the brick and mortar, and that's just a lot of times stick built homes are found inside of mobile home parks. Maybe back when it was built, maybe the owner or the manager lives in a nice little single family home, and then all the other trailers are all around it. So sometimes there's like duplexes or fourplexes, or sometimes it's a small apartment community that's sitting on the land as well. So these are just ways that we find the mobile home park deals. Whether you're looking for mobile home parks or apartment communities or single family homes, there's a couple of ways that you could go online, and there's a couple of websites. These aren't really, these are websites more to find the brokers who are listing the deals. But if you go to Mobile Home Park Store or LoopNet or Crexy, these are online resources that the whole entire public has access to. And so when you're in residential real estate and doing single family homes, you have access to the, MLS and Zillow and Trulia. And again, those are single family home. Those are usually what is retail. But if you're looking for deals, and in commercial real estate, it's through connections, through broker relationships, and through other means. But this is a good place to like look at maybe some deals that are publicly listed, and then maybe you can do some underwriting, or maybe you can find the brokers that list those deals, because again, brokers are a great source for deals. And the biggest thing is to make sure you're connecting with the brokers, and they understand who that you have the capacity to close. And talking to brokers is one thing, and connecting and being able to find brokers is one thing. But being able to help them understand that you're serious, that you know what you're looking for, that you have what it takes, that you have the capital, that you have the team to do it, that kind of puts you in a different bracket, because then they're going to start sharing their off-market listings or pocket listings with you. And so, again, brokers are just another way. I know a lot of brokerages who specialize in specifically in mobile home. So, okay, let's see. So I want to make sure I can still have control here. Awesome. So direct mail from a list is another way, we just like you could find any other real estate deal. You could absolutely use direct mail and mail campaigns. And this always works, when you're sending out these letters and just constructing the right words and all that. That's a little bit too much detail that I want to get into right now, but kind of a strategy where you're sending a letter, you're following up with a phone call, and if you have someone boots on the ground in that market, to drive by and go try to talk to somebody, especially if the owner is living on the property. And it's really all about timing, because a lot of people are looking to buy mobile home parks. There's probably a lot of owners that are getting direct mails, but the one who sends the direct mail, who follows up with a call, who then also shows up, those are usually the ones who are able to find off-market deals without a broker. And there's a lot of benefits to that. So That's just another way people find deals. And there's no better way than cold calling. Again, pairing this with, you send them a letter, then you cold call, and then you follow up and drive for dollars, right? It's just, you could also just get a list and call every single owner in the market that you're focusing on, and just letting them know that you're very interested in closing on a couple deals this year that look just like that, and hope that they think of you when they're ready to sell, or when they're ready to sell. So cold calling, there's really, it takes a little bit more effort and more kind of persistence, and just being able to put up with the rejection, because you have to go through a lot of no's. But cold calling, there's really no surefire, better and more proven way to find the owners of good deals is through cold calling. And then, like I said, driving for dollars and as actually talking to the owners. There's so many owners of really nice properties that will transition very well into different hands. So many of them just want to know that it's going into the right hands. So many of them just want to get to know the seller or the potential buyers, and they want a bond to be created. They want to like know and understand that all their hard work over the last however many years they put into this thing, that this is their investment, this is their biggest legacy, this is their family's retirement. They want to make sure that this asset is going into the right hands. So if you are able to find these owners, send them a letter, call them, and then actually go talk to them and set up a meeting, that seriously just gives you so much more of an advantage when you're looking for great deals out there, especially in a market that is a competitive market. So mobile home park tenants, the more deals I kind of do, and the more I deal with the different tenant base, which I really don't do a whole lot with operations or asset management personally, but mobile home park tenants is a different type of tenant and a different demographic than even apartment complex tenants or single family home tenants. Understanding how you really have direct control of the livelihood and of these tenants, and proving and showing that you care about the community, that you care, about their livelihood, and all your main goal is to just give them clean, safe, affordable housing, and that their manager, whoever's there, is actually listening to their complaints and following up with their maintenance requests. All this stuff matters for a good culture and keeping the morale high in mobile home communities. And I like, one of my mentors and, taught me, and I've learned this ever since, is how to be an empathetic capitalist. And it's just, it's super important. You'll be a very successful capitalist if you are taking care of your residents, and you show that you care, and you're not, and the thing is, a lot of times your property manager is the face of your asset, and they're, financially responsible for your asset as well. And so unless you have that day-to-day boots on the ground, sometimes you don't know how your residents are being treated. So, I mean, a couple of things. It's just like doing what you say you're going to do. And again, addressing maintenance issues as quick as possible. And a lot of old school mobile home park owners, had to literally threaten their tenants to collect rent. And if the rents, if the rent's collected, and if the tenant paying you got to enforce pay no stay. But and that's where you use the law, the law states that I have to collect it from you, and if not, you're not allowed to live here anymore. Then we got to go through the eviction process. So just educating your tenants on that stuff instead of just bullying them is really important too. And sometimes it's hard to find the people in the markets that will take care of their tenants as good as you want them to, if you're a remote owner. And then, so how do you deal with the riffraff? Obviously, there's a lot of riffraff in mobile home parks, and a lot of what we're doing is getting rid of the riffraff, and putting in better tenants, right? Higher quality tenants who are willing to pay, who are going to bring other higher quality tenants in. And that's the goal, is to set that culture and then bring in tenants who then spread the word and bring in more good tenants. It's really the screening program and the process for screening initially is the most important thing, but you are sometimes inheriting these tenants. As long as you understand the laws and you have support of the local city government, they'd be more than happy to help assist you keep the neighborhoods clean and keep your mobile home park clean. And that's another reason why it's part of our due diligence process to build relationships with the city hall, like specifically with the government, your city inspector, and even the mayor and the code enforcement and zoning and planning. Having relationships with these people before you even buy is super, super important because of these things, because you're always going to need each other during the life of your investment. So it's always good to make those relationships, and being an empathetic capitalist, like I said, just be reasonable and fair, and having that as kind of your driving kind of core value. That's what I love to share, because I think that's one of the best ways to be successful, but also help your tenants understand that you're here for them and you're serving them. So what else we got here? So there are real challenges, in mobile home parks, and think about, these moms and pops, and sometimes these very unsavvy investors who own, one mobile home park or whatever for a long, long time. They don't have very good accounting. A lot of times we have nothing to reference. A lot of times it's just on a piece of a notebook paper, and it's just like the monthly P&L and the rent rolls are literally written down. So sometimes that's a major challenge. A lot of times, the moms and pops are letting the first person that gives them, the rent deposit, and the first person that pays their first month rent to come in without screening them. So a lot of times you're inheriting bad tenants. A lot of the zoning is either old or outdated, or just incorrect. And at the same time, a lot of cities have a love-hate relationship with mobile home parks. And the reason for that is because they love them, because we talked about the affordable housing crisis that we have right now, and how mobile home parks are solving that. But at the same time, think about that plot of land the city has. If they build, a 5-story high dwelling that they could put a couple hundred apartment units in there, how much more tax revenue will they get? Rather, if they let just maybe 50 mobile homes or 100 mobile homes sit in there with families, if that, so it's a huge tax hit for them, to allow mobile home park investors to go and develop new, if they're not existing. But if they are existing and the mobile home park is it's already existed as zoned as such, it's usually a lot easier to get there and kind of add value and redevelop an existing park. But it's almost impossible to get a plot of land that is not zoned for mobile home parks. It's almost impossible to get it zoned as a mobile home park. Not saying that for every city across the board, but a lot of challenges that we have faced. So yeah, a lot of times maintenance is underreported, and the reason for that is because a lot of times the owners will do their own maintenance and not track it, right? So they're saying, oh, we only spent $200 on maintenance this year, but meanwhile, they spent how many hours fixing pipes and water lines and doing maintenance tasks, but undocumented, right? So that's kind of a big challenge too. A lot of times these mobile home parks are situated in wind zones and flood zones and hurricane zones and stuff like that. So a lot of times there's certain specs that they have to meet. The wind zone, we really don't invest in flood zones, but a lot of times there are wind zones, and as long as the are up to code, they're wind zone specific for that area, and that's really all that matters. And as long that's what insurance is for. You can never fully prepare for natural disaster, and I'm actually still cleaning up a lot of stuff. I'm here in Pensacola. We had Hurricane Sally come through back late last year, and it was bad. There was a lot of people who lost their dwellings, and a bunch of my properties did get hit, and I'm still dealing with that. So that's the point of insurance, so you can't ever do really anything to avoid all those disasters. But anyway, yeah, I mean, mobile home parks are not for everybody, but a lot of people, if this is like light bulbs are going off, you're like, why didn't I think about this before? And mobile home parks are great for some people, but others would rather not, get involved with them. So, I mean, a couple keys, that to profitable investing that we like to kind of share is, the market is probably the most important thing, right? One thing you can't change is the location. So there has to be some key metrics in the market that we're excited about. Mostly that it's growing in population, that there's diverse economy, that there's multiple employers that are strong and growing and thriving, that the unemployment rate is below the national average, and that usually average home price we like above 100,000. Usually if it's less than 100,000, maybe a lot of those residents can just afford a mortgage and buy their own small home or something. So that's why we like, the average home price in the market to be over 100,000. Other than that, let me see. Yeah, stick to municipal utilities. That I usually go back and forth on this, and what that means is city water, city sewer. If you ever heard of that, city water, city sewer, you want to assume, oh, it's so easy because they'll direct bill to the city, and that's it. Just completely, you don't have to worry about a thing. That's not true. The thing is, like, even if it's city water, city sewer, you own the infrastructure, you own the line. So understanding what the material is of these lines, what kind of metal is it? Plastic for the water? Is it PVC? Is it like Orangeburg and really thin lines, and what's the condition? Because when obviously it goes bad, or if a root system from a tree kind of cracks the pipes, that's on you. That's not on the city. The city handles the billing because technically it's their infrastructure, but if it's on your property, you own that and you're responsible for it. That's why sometimes private utilities are better if they're maintained, like septic systems and well water, right? And a lagoon system. Sometimes like these lagoons are super outdated, but they're the best because there's one that we have. There's no parts at all. It's completely gravity fed, and there's no maintenance required at all. And that's just how the sewage is kind of processed inside that park. So it doesn't all, like, municipal utilities aren't always the best. Sometimes it is a lot more convenient just to have city water, city sewer. But again, you have to make sure during conducting property due diligence, you understand, you're scoping the lines, you understand the material, what the condition is, when it was installed, and then when the life of that, and when you might anticipate having to replace all that. So that's about utilities, and there's a lot to learn about utilities, but only lot rent is factored into your numbers. That's the only thing when you're running numbers and you're analyzing a deal and you're getting ready to make your offer on large properties, only using lot rent, because hopefully, in the first couple of years, a lot of your park owned homes where you're charging park unit rent, hopefully those will be tenant owned homes, and then you'll eventually only be collecting lot rent. So you only really want to factor in the lot rent when you make offers. But a lot of times owners are absolutely putting values on their homes, especially if they're within the last 20 years or so. They could be, valued at 5, 10, 15, 20 grand. Obviously sellers are going to try to get what they're worth. But yeah, that's just another thing. And you don't want to count all your unit rent into your numbers when you're underwriting. And so, yeah, like I said, a higher cap rate statistically, it's kind of, it is flattening out a little bit more. I'm not going to tell you that you can go find double-digit cap rate mobile home park deals. We're still seeing there's a lot that are listed publicly on through the brokerage and stuff, and there's people that are buying deals at 4 cap, 5 cap, 6 caps. That's not what we're looking for. And luckily interest rates are still super, super low, and our lending environment is very favorable. But to me, that's cash that has to be coming from China or from the West Coast, California or something. Because even with the super low interest rates, we're still looking for, at least 7, 7.5, 8 caps. And we're still finding them in both apartments and mobile home parks. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's what else we got here. Let's go through. I'm definitely ready to start answering some questions. I don't want to get too far into this. Again, pushing rents fairly but relentlessly. That's being an empathetic capitalist. If you're $300 below lot rent or $200 below lot rent, you don't want to go in there within the first 6 months, jack it all the way up. You need to justify why you're renting. Even $25 up to $50, in 1 year is a lot for a lot of these mobile home park residents who are used to paying $200, $300, $400 a month. Jacking it up $50 is a big them. So there has to be kind of justification with improvement, new signage, just improving the community. So I'm going to run through again, get to know the people at City Hall. I already talked about that. These are very important people. If you're under contract on deals, talking to economic development, the city planner, zoning, even the inspector, the fire marshal, like, getting to know those people at City Hall is going to, during your due diligence period, and letting them know kind of what you're doing and who you are, that you're not just another slumlord trying to come in and just make money and get out of there. You want to actually improve the community. They're absolutely going to help you. So we could absolutely talk about some mindset. What do you think? Do you think, we have time to do this? You want to kind of just dive into Brian, do you want to dive into the questions and Q&A? I think I saw a bunch coming through.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A. If you want, can you leave the slide on your contact info? That way, if anyone wants to reach you, they have all your contact info.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And what I did, guys, I'm a big fan of mindset, and mindset is just something that you could work on every day and grow as a person. And it just will directly impact so many facets of life. So I love talking about mindset. And if we had more time, we would talk about mindset and just, working on yourself and being a student and listening and improving your communication skills and even your health and your energy. That's all about your mindset, and that, how you maintain that and how you perceive that and who you surround yourself with is going to impact your life in so many ways. So if mindset is something you're constantly growing at and learning and new ways, new strategies, and picking up new habits, it's only going to improve your life significantly. So that's basically that. Let's go ahead and let's open up for QA, man. I'll see what's on the mind.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of great questions in there. I was seeing them pop up as you were going. So we'll start with the chat area. If you do have questions, anyone else that has more questions, type them in the Q&A section. That way they're all together. And I'll try to get through as many as I can. Okay, so my first question here. If a tenant owns the home in a park, how do you evict them?
Yeah, that's if the tenant owns the home, there's a couple different ways. You either have to let them know that they need to leave, or you need to give them cash, fees, and you need to make a deal, and it's very largely subjective on the history of that tenant and how, what it will be worth to you and your business and your park to get rid of them. Would it be really prudent for you to actually take them to court and evict them? Or maybe they want something else. Maybe they just want to get out of it. Maybe they want some of the money back. Maybe they're willing to leave, but they just have this, they maybe need this stipulation. So it's about getting to know and understanding who that tenant is, their history, how long have they been there, and kind of just working it out. And it depends on the state too, and the eviction law. So I wish I had a more straightforward answer for you. I'm sorry that it was kind of vague, but that's a very, very subjective question.
All right. The most common question I get at every webinar, yes, there will be recording of this. It'll be posted on all of our social media and our blog section on newviewtrust.com. Anyone that wasn't able to attend, we could probably do an email blast to everyone so that they have it. Okay, the next question. Is there a desire for investors who don't have time to do all the legal work, but will be a funding source?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Great question. So a lot of these mobile home parks are in real estate syndications, and depending on, if you know what a syndication is, I had to assume a lot of people watching know what a real estate syndication is. It's how a lot of commercial real estate assets are purchased, and you're just pooling a bunch of investor money together. That's what's being syndicated, a bunch of investor capital, and they are the limited partners or the Class A members of a syndication, and they're just capital partners or silent partners. They have no voting rights. And the general partners are the ones who find the deal, underwrite the deal, essentially do all the work, raise all the capital, put the deal together, connect all the dots. They're the general partners. And usually a syndication is a split between limited partners and general partners. And a lot of times limited partners have a lot more ownership than the general partners because they have the money, right? A real estate syndication is probably one of the more widely commonly known ways to get involved in, like, how to become an investor and an owner in a mobile home park without doing any of the work. Become a limited partner in a syndication, and that's where you can find you're talking double-digit returns, cash on cash day one, and you're talking about 20 to 30% IRR annualized, and I'm talking about triple-digit returns, over a 5 to 7 year hold. And that's that's based on results I've seen, I've offered, what a lot of my friends and business partners are doing in their businesses too. So hopefully that answers your question.
All right. Okay, the next question. So where do you get the capital to buy a whole park? You mentioned investors. Are these all through NewView or outside of NewView? I love that question. Do you use self-directed IRA investors? Is the question.
Yeah. So I used to have a self-directed IRA. I personally was a self-directed IRA customer that ended up going into one of my first deals. And yeah, the capital that is used is found. Usually it's through either accredited investors or non-accredited investors. And that's, again, a syndication term, a legal term. That's a term through the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. If someone, is considered an accredited investor if any of the following: they have a net worth of $1 million without counting their home equity, their primary residence, or they made 250 in the last 2 years, or household made 350 in the last 2 years and anticipate doing the same. That's your accredited investor. But you're a non-accredited or sophisticated investor. If you don't meet those net worth or income requirements, but you understand investing, you can still get involved in these deals. But as a sophisticated investor, and there's different different types of syndications. Reg D, 506B and C, those are for non-accredited and sophisticated, and then accredited. But yeah, I mean, the people personally that I found are friends and family for my first couple deals. And then when we were able to promote the deals to accredited investors only using a 506C fund, that's where we were just using accredited investors that were in our network. And now we actually have a direct relationship with a family office who funds most of our deals.
All right. How do you find parks that are willing to sell? These seem like good, solid investments that probably don't come along very often for the right price.
Yeah. Oh man, great question. And I'm glad you talk about that, because in every asset class, it's a great asset to sell if you buy it right and manage it right and finance it right. But so many people don't do any of those things, let alone maybe one of them, right? So there's so many opportunities out there where people buy into this business and get into this business and don't know how to manage, don't understand financing and how to get good rates and good terms, long-term debt, and how to just structure that commercial financing. And so a lot of people get into this business and their management goes down, their numbers go down, and they just need someone to kind of just come in and offer them just a low cash offer just to get them out of a bad situation. And sometimes it's just mom and pops who know what they were doing over the years, but they just are giving up and they're starting to slack on their maintenance, and they've never hired a manager. They've just done everything themselves, and they know there's some value there, and they're looking for that person to turn it over to who's going to take care of it. So there's deals, like I said, and finding the deals is either through brokers, through the online platforms, through people in your networks, mailing, cold calling, driving for dollars. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. There's opportunities just literally all over the place. You just have to know where to look.
Okay, this question is for NewView. Can family members who have separate self-directed IRA accounts go into a deal together if terms are clearly spelled out? Yes, you can partner on deals, but once you've partnered on that deal, it's set in stone. You can't buy those disqualified party portions out. If it's a disqualified party, if it's a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, they're not disqualified. You can potentially buy them out, but you can't do any what's called sweetheart deals. It has to be the fair market value of the property and what it's worth. Okay, do you have tenants that use their own utility hookups, or do mobile park homes provide the utilities?
No, yeah, in our parks, I mean, they're individual pads. So each pad, a lot of them are made of just concrete pads, and then they'll have a city water or well water or whatever the water system is, water treatment plant. And then they'll have a sewer hookup, whether it's a septic tank or city sewer or a lagoon. And then they'll have their own electric pole and their own electric pedestal. So they plug into their own that is individually placed on each pad. And then depending on how the infrastructure is designed, whether sometimes a lot of those are where the owner pays one bill, where it's like all the utilities are hooked up and then the owner pays one electrical bill or one water bill or whatever. So obviously sub-metering is a huge thing to add value to a park where the tenants will pay their own. And nowadays the tenants should be paying for what they consume. It just fosters conservation. You look at a park where the owner pays for everything, and then you look at a park where the tenants pay for everything. Overall consumption is less, at least 30% less, in where the tenants are paying for their own because they know they have to pay for their own, so they use less. They don't just like let their water hose run, or they wash their car every day knowing that the owner's paying for the water. So it really depends. But nowadays, most tenants are paying for their own utilities, but they're hooked up through the park utilities.
I love that answer. Environmentally friendly.
That's right, man.
Okay, this is this is the last question. This is a good one. Okay, this person is looking at a property that has 12 RV sites plus a mobile home and large storage building. It doesn't seem to know what it wants to be when it grows up. A large 4-acre property with plenty of room for expansion. How would you approach this?
I would put as many pads as possible, because that's what's going to pay rent the most. And RVs are great if you understand that it's transitional. It's not consistent. It's very inconsistent. But depends on where. It depends on the largely depends on the location and your business model. Storage units are great. But if it sounds like there's a big storage building on that property, but it's almost like more than what is there to offer the existing rents, like the existing living units. So I would get as many, see how many more pads you could put in, what it would take. I would see how it's zoned. First and foremost, get it how it's zoned. Talk to City Hall. Specifically zone, like planning and development, economic development, zoning and planning, like whoever the main rep is in those areas. Talk to that individual, let them know what you're doing. You want to add the most value to the community, and I want to know, what is there a demand for? Is there a demand for housing? How, what would it take for me to get zoning approved to put 12 more pads in or 20 more pads in? But I would get as many pads as possible, and that will largely depend on the infrastructure too. If it is a city water, city sewer, and can they tap into it to expand it out? But yeah, man, that really depends on why they're selling too. What's the story behind the property? That's the biggest question. What's the story, and why are they selling? Because if you could help solve their problem, you might just get a really, really good deal, and then you'll figure it out later. But if it's something that you want to put more strategy behind, I would talk to zoning and development, see what it would take to redevelop, and get as many pads in there as possible, and everything else will fall in place.
All right, great answer. Tim, thank you again so much. This is very valuable. There's a ton of more questions. I apologize if we didn't get to answer any of the questions you typed in the chat or the Q&A, but you are more than welcome to reach out to Tim directly. This is all his contact information on this page here. If you do have any questions specifically about, self-directed IRAs, I can answer those. You can download our e-guide. Just text to the number 484848. capital SDIRA. Please include your first and your last name. You can download our e-guide that way. If you wish to speak to me one-on-one, my direct contact information is 407-519-9172. My email is bmartinez@newviewira.com. Thank you everyone for attending. This was a great webinar. Tim, thank you again. That was phenomenal. And we will touch base again soon. Bye, everyone.
Guys, thanks again for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks.